Hi, everyone. It's Rosalie Dudana from The Purifying Place, and I'm back here again with another episode for you of Align and Thrive, Live Your Truth. And today I had an idea I came up with 10 questions to ask yourself to see if you're living a soul aligned life, right? To help you reclaim your power, reclaim your truth, and just basically realign your life so that you know you're living it for you, for from source, from the calling in your soul. Because I've noticed this time and time again with my own clients. I'm a spiritual life coach, and a lot of clients come in and they realize that the past, X amount of years have been lived, somewhat unconsciously. And they don't realize because of all these imprints from expectations of family, society, culture that they've been making choices that aren't really aligned with their soul, that aren't really true for them. And, by asking yourself the right questions, this allows you to then have the awareness to make a change because we can't truly make a change in our life until we become aware that there's even a problem, that there's even something that we would like to change. And I talk about this a little bit more in my Soul Speak channel, which is my private community Telegram channel. It's free to listen. So if you're interested, I will include the link in the description. But, I talk about in, one of the latest voice notes that we have to start being super honest with not only ourselves, but others. And when we allow ourselves to live in our truth and speak our truth, that then sparks truth in others. For example, in some families and communities, they might all be operating under a false belief and not even realize it because of conditioning or trauma or whatever it is. And no, and people are scared to speak out because then that would make them different. That would mean they would be, an outcast and all these, things. And evolutionary speaking, that comes with this nervous system dysregulation. And but when we are complicit, when we don't speak out, when we go with the crowd, this doesn't allow for change to happen. And it's and I talk about this in the voice note on my Soul Speak channel. It's the difference between a short-term hurt and a long-term hurt, right? If we're not willing to speak our truth, that's long-term hurt because we are contributing to disillusionment, to falsehoods, and we're co-creating that, as opposed to saying how it is now in the moment. And maybe there's a little bit of friction, there's a little bit of hurt feelings or sting, but it's short-lived. And when done in truth and love, and it's an opportunity for expansion for ourselves and for the person involved. So, yeah, anyway, that's another whole story, but, I just get so excited talking about it. But, let me go into the questions. I picked 10. I was kind of like, "Oh, is this too much?" Because I don't normally make these too long, but, we're going for it. Let's do 10. So, I'm gonna say each question. These are perfect just to kind of reflect in the moment with yourself, or even if you wanna listen and then reflect, but then also journal on them, these are great for that. Because I just love questions and, like, I just love thinking about my thinking and asking questions, and so I feel like this will be helpful for a lot of you, and I know a lot of people love journaling. So let's dig in. Number 1, the first question is, where in my life do I feel drained, resentful, or disconnected? So, focusing on those emotions specifically, because a lot of the times we have these emotions and we are not wanting to pay attention to them, or we numb ourselves so we have to deal with them, or we distract ourselves, but they're there as indicators to reveal to us something that is out of alignment. somewhere where our soul is asking us to pay attention because something is being compromised, right? So they're not meant to ignore or distract ourselves from, they're invitations for realignment. So yes, look at where you're feeling drained, resentful, or disconnected. Number two, let's see. What areas of my life do I continue to tolerate even though they no longer serve me? And ooh, this is such a good one because more often than not, we just become kind of like we live on repeat, right? We go through the motions, we have our routine, we have our schedule, we do what we've always done, we have traditions, like all these things. And not to say those aren't good, but sometimes we operate out of it's unconsciousness, right? We're just kind of going through the walks of life, we're just going through our day and our routines. But when you can reflect and ask, what things am I tolerating in my life that no longer serve me? They might have served me at a certain point in my life, but now I have to reflect and see, where are things outdated? Where can I allow myself to expand? Where can I allow myself to choose something different, create something different? And this is something I love to do. Honestly, I encourage all of you to do this, if not on a daily basis, weekly, monthly, whatever it is, and just reflect on your being and how you're showing up and what you've spent your time on and how you use your energy, and see, is that in alignment with who I am, who I know I am, and who I know and who I know I belong to, right? And source and the creator. Or am I operating in a way that doesn't serve me, that doesn't reflect the truth of me and who I know I am to be? So that is a really good one. I love that one. Number three, am I making choices from fear or from alignment with my deepest truth? And so fear, indicators of fear. And again, these can, if we're depending on where we're at in our journey, some of these questions we might have never thought of them. We and I'm just learning that actually. I mean, as someone who like reflects a lot, I always thought people just naturally reflected and asked themselves all these questions like I do. But the older I get each year and I, have all these experiences talk with people, I'm realizing there are so many people who don't take the time to slow down and reflect on why they do the things they do and ask those deeper questions. And so when we can slow down and see, are these choices really in alignment with who I am, with my deepest truth, with what I know I'm here and meant to fulfill in this world and my desires? Or am I acting from a place of fear? And again, if we're going through the motions, doing what we always done, we're numbing ourselves, we kind of distracting ourselves, we might not even realize that we're making the choice from fear. But that's the whole reason for this slowness and this stillness and this reflection period. To really pay attention and I encourage you not just up here in your mind, but bring it down, bring your energy down into your body and notice, what do I feel in my body when I am doing certain things? That is an indicator, and allow myself to feel whatever it is I'm feeling because your body is always sending you signals and clues. And so, for example, knowing this question, reflecting on it, journaling on it, and then maybe the next day you're going through your day and you become even more aware of, whoa, I noticed when I spend time with this person, I feel this sensation in my stomach and it doesn't feel good, or whatever it is, right? And then that's a clue. Oh my gosh, I realize I don't actually want to be there. I'm people pleasing. I'm living out of obligation. I feel like I need to go there because they're a family member or whatever it is. But when you can recognize this, you free yourself because this fear of is showing up in our body. And when we can see, what am I afraid of? Why am I showing up as something different than what I am? Because more often than not, it's a form of performing, pleasing, or protecting some type of identity, right? Um, but when you're in alignment, notice on the opposite end of the spectrum, when you do things that align with your soul, pay attention in your heart and your soul and your body, how it feels. It feels expansive, it feels bold, it feels you know, exciting or whatever it is, and notice the differences when you're going through your day. And that in itself will give you some feedback on what changes you might need to make or what else you would like to create in your life that aligns more with your truth and not from fear. Number four, what parts of myself am I silencing, suppressing, or abandoning to keep the peace or to be accepted? This, I kind of talked about it in the previous question. But again, this is something to think about, reflect on, and become aware of again in your own private space while you're journaling, contemplating, thinking to yourself, or and even encourage you throughout the day. Um, because you're gonna notice, oh, when have there been times where I wanted to say something and I was like, oh, I had to say it and I need to say it and I didn't. Right, and what was the reason for that? And where do I feel like I can't be myself in order to keep, the peace or not be someone who's causing trouble or to fit in, right? To be accepted. That is a huge clue of how we're not, living in an empowered way, right? And then once we become aware of it, then we can make the choice to take action and voice our opinions, right? Saying how we feel, sticking up for ourselves, whatever it may be. But the first part, again, before the action, is just the awareness of it. The awareness, the intention, and then the action, right? That's how it goes. You need to have the awareness first that you need to make the change, have the intention then to do it a certain way the next time or in the moment, and take the action, actually do it, right? And that begets like confidence. You're gonna become more and more in alignment with who you are, and it just becomes easier and easier. Let's see. But let's see, where was I? Virtue. Yeah. So, and again, looking back on that too, about what parts of you that you hide, notice why do I hide them, right? Because normally what's happening is we're hiding something that we know is going to create change, right? We know it's powerful and we know it's going to ruffle some feathers. But then also the reason why we keep it in because we think, oh, no, we're people pleasing, right? We're performing. We think, oh, I don't want to have people think a certain way about me and all this stuff. But yeah, that again helps you step into your power and recognize where you're giving away your power, where you're shutting it down, and encouraging you to then live from that power and speak your truth. Um, Number five is what would my most authentic self say no to that I keep saying yes to? I love this one. Um, no is sacred, right? No is a complete sentence and it sets the tone for who you are and who you know to be and what you know as your own self-worth, right? Because every time you betray it, every time you say yes when you mean no, reinforce this abandonment, right? You reinforce the disconnection that I don't deserve to live in my truth, to be who I am, because I have to say yes when I really mean no. So um, pay attention to that. Pay attention to what have I said, and this could be right now. Look in your calendar, reflect on it, say what have I said yes to that was actually a no, right? Or what have I said yes to that I'm currently scheduled for that really feels like a no for me. And if you're unsure, take the time to sit with each of those yeses and see how it feels. Reflect on your in your body and see, is this a true yes for me? Or is this no, right? Deepen those intuitive skills, listen to your body, your mind, right, your soul. And then respect and acknowledge and accept the yes or the no, and then intend and take action on that, right? Because again, I feel like I've just had this conversation with someone, but it might not always make logical sense. It might make you might be like, "Wait, what? Why is that a no? It all looks fine on paper, and this person seems good, and I feel like I can benefit from it." And you might think it's a yes, but when you check in with your intuition and your body, it's clearly a no. And the problem is like our mind doesn't have all the answers, right? We can't we don't always know all the answers logically, but there's a reason why we're being indicated from, energetically why this is a no. And now that I full-heartedly respect my intuition and my energy and my knowing and what my guides and what God tells me is a yes and no for me, it's just changed my life, right? And when you can honor yourself this way and have those boundaries, you're less susceptible to burnout. You're less susceptible to resentment because you know you're only going to do things that are truly aligned for you and that you love, that you enjoy. And actually, it doesn't even have to be something you love or enjoy. It's just something that you know you have to do, right? As opposed to something you know is not gonna is a no, and there's a reason why it's a no, right? Let's see. Uh, Number 6, where am I outsourcing my power? Where am I waiting for permission, validation, or some type of clarity outside of myself to take action? And the whole thing with this is, as again, our mind wants us to have all the answers before we take action to feel safe, right? But when you align with your soul and you take that soul line action, you have self-trust, right? You have faith. And no, you can't receive the clarity. I mean, sometimes it's very clear, but sometimes clarity doesn't come until you trust yourself first and then take the action. And then with each step, things get more and more clear, right? So we might be outsourcing our power and waiting for this ideal thing to happen before we can take action on something, or we have to have someone's permission to do this or whatever it is. And that is all just a lie. We can just start right now. We can do what we want, and that's our power, right? Drawing it back in. We can take action now, right? We don't have to wait to be good enough. We don't have to wait for permission or someone to validate us and say, "Oh my gosh, that's a good idea. You'd be good at that." We don't need any of it, right? When we can operate from our inner intrinsic motivation, which is really inspiration, inspire in spirit with source, with God, and create from that space, then that is what gives us power, right? But if we're just constantly waiting for outer external forces to tell us, okay, you can do it now, or nice job, that's again, those external motivations are never going to be sustainable for us, because we're going to always be waiting for the next thing and the next someone or the next thing to happen or the next person to tell us, yes, you got this, to to do what we know we're meant to do. And again, if you're operating with source in alignment with your soul, that is ever replenishing. It fuels you in a way that no external or outwardly expectation or validation can, because it's from within. And that's such a good way. I love that one. Because I know based on my own experience too, once I stopped outsourcing my power that way and lived from within, lived from what I know spirit, God, source is telling me to do, I've just unlocked so much more energy because I'm not putting my energy and attention in everybody else to tell me what I should be doing, when I can do it, how I should do it. And I just listen to my own heart and soul and what God has placed in my heart for me to fulfill. And again, all that energy is cut off because I've made the decision to focus only on what truly matters to me and my heart and my soul. And that's in connection with spirit, with God, with source, with the universe. And that is such a much more sustainable flow of energy than placing it everywhere, right? Let's see. What number was that? Okay. Next one is number 7. Let's see. What is okay. What relationships? Ooh, I love this one too. Oh, this is something I reflect on. What relationships or environments feel heavy, constricting, or inauthentic? Because again, your body knows, right? Drop into your body, feel how it feels when you're in that space. Your nervous system knows. There's a reason why it knows, right? Pay attention to where you are shrinking yourself, shutting down, you're like dimming it, right? Anything that makes you want to disconnect from who you really are just to stay um with that group or connected, right? Or with the people that you're with in that instance or that environment, that's not alignment, right? And whoo, this is such a good one. So it's funny, I can reflect on this because um there was a group of people I was hanging out with over and over and over again. And I thought, again, I'm naturally reflective. I thought, oh, I have really gotten myself out of environments and in relationships with people who I deemed as toxic or didn't reflect back the worth that I knew within myself, and started living more in alignment with who I am. And this is why this is a process, right? And I really felt like, oh, good, I got it. I've realigned, chosen consciously the types of relationships, situations, environments that I'm going to be in. And there's always the next level, right? But then when I notice, the more I like evolve and grow and I reflect, I notice, oh my gosh, I always feel really drained and terrible and confused and self-conscious and critical of myself after hanging around with these specific group of people. And um, when I started tuning into more how it felt on my body, of course, the rational mind would try to reason it away like, what? These people have been in your life for so long. They love you. They care about you. That's just how they are. It doesn't affect you. They're, all the things that we reason in our mind. And it's so interesting because when I consciously do life audits um, often. And during that time, I thought when I was doing it in the section of relationships, I was just like, if I'm really honest with myself, I wouldn't keep these relationships. But I second guessed myself. I gave away my power and I said, no, for them, I can tolerate this because, they did this for me. They did that, all these keeping score things, right? It's okay. Like one of them is my family member. Another one is really close friend of the family, all this stuff. And it just became, again, when you do your own inner work and you evolve and you grow, it just became more and more apparent to me like, no, this is not it. And you will no longer be able to fit into those containers. So it was just a natural thing where it just became more and more evident like, you are not a match here as much as I wanted to be, right? And it just got so not painful, but it just, I mean, yes, painful too. It just got to a point where it just wasn't good. It didn't feel good physically. And and it's so interesting. I heard someone use the analogy during a talk today about I think I saw it on Instagram, but someone was like, yeah, when you after you purge all the ugly stuff and you like, think of it as like vomit, you don't get the vomit and eat it again. I was like, that's so gross, but it's so true. I was conscious and aware that this didn't feel right, but I was still conscious. I was still choosing to interact with them, stay in that space with them, entertain these people, hang out with them, and then feel bad about it after and not feel good. But I did that knowing it's not good for me. So, and then again, goes back to one of the previous questions. Why am I giving away my power, right? Why am I abandoning myself to be accepted? And that just again creates the awareness that created the awareness for me to then choose a new intention, choose something new to create for myself. And in order to do that, I had to do the inner work around that and learn the lessons around that and release them so I can become more of who I really am to then have what I desire and take the action in alignment with the person I'm becoming. So, and for me, the action after all that was to, it took this specifically, this example I'm sharing with you, took a while. It took years because I was so, back and forth with it because again, the lesson that I learned was I was afraid to be alone because I was afraid to be abandoned. I had this wound of abandonment. But when I healed that, it became so easy to release those relationships. Um, and this is why people talk about healing is not linear, right? We go around, it's circular, it's cyclical, and um, I chose to give up those relationships before I even learned about the abandonment wound. I kind of already know, but I dug even deeper into that, and it just led to liberation. Another like click in the key to like for freedom, for true freedom. And anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent, but um yeah, this is like these questions and just reflecting is really powerful, powerful stuff because um once I did that, it just creates a ripple effect of change, of transformation. And so again, number 7, what relationships or environments feel heavy, constricting, inauthentic, and why am I choosing to stay in them? Why listen to my body, listen to your nervous system, and how can I honor my the trust I have in myself, the love I have for myself, the knowing, and take action with faith that it's steering me in the right direction, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's scary, even if it means giving up everything that I've known and I'm used to. Do we have the courage to do that? Do we have the capacity to make that conscious choice? Because healing isn't always easy, isn't always rainbows and butterflies, unicorns, and you know, all this beauty. Obviously there's beauty in it too, but there's a shadow as well. And when we can look at it and take it for what it is and accept it and live it, we allow it to integrate into who we are. We allow it to integrate into our wholeness, into the beauty and the light of who we are on a full spectrum. But yeah, that's such a good one. Let's see. And number 8, if I fully trusted myself, what change would I make today? Which, oh my gosh, yes, ties in with the previous question, right? And again, most of the time we already know. Just like the example I just shared, I already knew I knew at a certain level that these relationships were not good for me, but I justified them and saying, well, remember that one time they did this for you? And, you know, this is a family member. They've been in your life your whole life. Like, if they don't love you, then who's going to love you? And all these things, all the lies that we make up in our mind about why we can't trust ourselves, why we can't do what we know we're meant to do. Um, but again, that's why the spiritual path is a warrior's path. It takes courage to do this, right? Not everybody, a lot of people are just stuck doing what they've always been doing because they're either unconscious, asleep, or scared. They're scared, so they're just going to stay where they're at and not move any differently, right? But the fact that you're watching this means you are ready for more. You know you're meant for more. And you are here for the challenge, for the transformation. And so, again, what change would you make today based on what you already know but haven't been integrating fully? Um, and I love that word integration, integrity, because I love, I just love reflecting, but I always reflect on my values. And for many years, integrity was a value of mine. And I love reading the dictionary and looking up meanings of words and all that, but I would always look up integrity and think, "Oh my gosh, like everything together, right? All together." And I noticed when I would have, because what I do is I reflect on the value, I reflect how's it showing up, how am I embodying it, how am I living it? And I noticed I wasn't having integrity. I wasn't having full embodiment in all areas of my life, which is okay because we're not perfect. But there were parts of my life where I was consciously choosing not to act in integrity, and I had to be honest with myself and say and think and feel, well, why am I acting in alignment and integrity in these areas, but with this specific thing, I'm not? And we have to be truly, truly honest with ourselves, right? And that's why I just love, working with coaches, working if you're, a counselor or a therapist, or if that's for you, going to healing circles, because we can't always find the answers just for ourselves, right? Prayer, whatever it is, meditations, um, because we're only operating out of the consciousness that we have at this moment. But once we have someone else to reflect back to us, or even be in the space of someone with this higher perspective or elevated consciousness, then the answers become so much more clear. And you can be that too for someone else if you just speak and live in alignment with your truth. And so that, again, that's why it's so important, right? To do this, because when we limit ourselves, we limit everybody. We limit because essentially we're one. We're all interwoven. Um we're all one. Um so when people say, "Oh, well, to think only about yourself is selfish." Actually, that's the most loving thing you can do, is love yourself, be true to yourself, and act on what you know is true for you. That is one of the most loving things you could do for yourself. But people don't, I mean, not everybody teaches that. We're told as children, like, no, you should think of others first, like, put everyone else before you. I know how I grew up, that was exactly how it was. And if you ever thought about yourself, you were selfish, right? But that is so twisted. Anyway, going back to this, let me see, where was I? If I fully trust myself, um, oh yeah, number 9. Oh my gosh, I love this. I think I'm gonna do more of these where it's like, 'cause I just love questions. Either questions or lists or something. But let me see. Number 9, where am I holding back my voice, my desires, my creativity out of fear of judgment or rejection? Yes, 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 yes. This is so good. And this is something I help with people with in coaching a lot, because your voice is your essence. It's a huge part of who you are. And when you mute it, when you turn it off, when you deny yourself to express, you become depressed, right? And that's what was happening to me. I've been silenced as a child, and a lot of us, we are silenced as children. We, are shamed for speaking out or saying our truth, or we're made to feel silly or stupid or whatever it is for speaking, right? So the evolution of our souls was really for us to reclaim that power in our authentic voice. And it needs you to be real. And I really feel like this year in 2025 is a huge level up in this department, where people are beginning to speak their truth like they've never have before, especially with the internet. Because when I think, when you think back and look back, people who have um spoken or said something and are then being vilified on the internet, and people are wanting their lives to be ruined and all these things, is really just showing the inevitable, the evolution of the inevitable, of the power of truth, the power of speaking up, the power of saying what you really feel and mean and think to be true and know is true for you. It's just unapologetic, uncensored, and let your light shine freely and express yourself creatively. And I'm not saying just spread lies and hate and all this stuff, but it needs to come you can only be in this place and act from that place of empowerment and true expression if it's coming from your soul, if it's coming from source, if it's coming from God. Otherwise, it's some form of a disillusionment, a falsehood, of ego, right? And it's just, I guess, that's a lot. For number 9, you can see I'm really passionate about this, but because that is just like a huge theme in my life, and I know in many people's life, is silencing of their voice and of their creative expression and expression of who they are. And if you can just stop with denying your expression, um, and stop performing, and one step in the right direction in this area for you could be, um is, I've said this before in another um episode, is just remain quiet. Don't go validate, don't confirm, don't or even deny, don't say anything. Practice stillness, practice silence, but with conscious awareness, with discipline, that I choose to be quiet right now. Not because you're being silenced, because you are consciously accepting silence now, sitting in stillness, living from inspiration, from direction, connection with source, with God, with the universe, with what you know to be true for you, and then speak. And then let it out, and then say what it is, and allow yourself to express it freely. You feel the energy coming through your throat chakra, but what happens sometimes, it gets stuck up here, and let it come from here, your heart, your soul, right where God dwells in you. Feel your truth, feel it, not think it, right? Feel your truth and let it, speak it into existence. Don't let it go from here to here. I mean, we do need our mind too, a couple, but don't overthink it, because when we're overthinking it, again, it's performance. It's, well, how are people going to take this? Will they understand me? I don't know if they'll get it, and then I'll look stupid. And what if people think I'm crazy? All the things that come from our mind that's just trying to keep us safe, right? But practice that. Practice true expression, heart-centered expression. Um, and this is where really self-mastery comes in, is because, well, then how do you do that if you have all these outwardly external influences distracting you, telling you what you should believe, telling you what you should say, someone, your parents telling you should do this, and friends telling you, oh, that's not cool, all the things. Which is why right before someone really becomes empowered, there's an isolation period. I know a lot of you might have heard of this, is where just everything falls away. You're by yourself, you're in solitude. It's because you're really being recalibrated to pay attention, acknowledge, feel, know who you truly are. It's being revealed to you because all the outside noise falls away. You remember your truth, you remember who you are, you feel it in your bones, you feel it in your heart, you feel it in your soul. Um, and it's fortifying you, right? So the next time you do go out, the next time you aren't in other environments, you can hold that frequency, you can hold your truth, you can understand who you are without people telling you who you are. And that is empowering. That is like true freedom, true self-expression. And when you move from that place, uh, game over. Like you're just, it's your life is going to change. You're going to feel it now. You're going to feel it in the moment. People think, oh, but then this and that, blah 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 blah. You're not even worried about the outcome anymore because you're already it. And so the having, the receiving just takes care of itself, right? Um, Oh my gosh, this is so good. And then last one, number 10, what would alignment look and feel like in this particular season of my life? Because taking it from the context and the perspective of not every year is the same. Not every day is the same. Each month might look different, right? Just moment to moment might be different. Um, and kind of, align with what I just said in the previous, at the end of the previous question, it is not a destination. It is not an outcome that you receive. Um, but it is a process. It's a way of being. Um, feel it, know it, define it. That helps you, um, and then begin to live from there. Live from your truth. Live from what's already yours. And energetically, it is. It's yours now, right? When you can understand that and know you are, know where you come from, know that truth that you are from the creator, you are the creator, and using that intend and create in a way um, that is inspired, that is placed in your heart, the desire is in your heart because God put it there. And then take action, live from that space, right? Um, and depending on what season you are in your life, that can look different, right? So, for example, for me, when I had my daughter, after she was born, it was 2020 during the start of the pandemic. I just had a baby who was extremely premature, 23 weeks. My alignment, my action, my intentions then are going to be different than now, right? Because that is just such a different time and place of my life. But the mechanisms, the self mastery, the things that I've learned through those experiences still apply today. And I don't even have to work nearly as hard because the more I am aware of these, what I just talked, all the things that I just talked about, the more I practice them, the more I take action on them, more deeply embodied they become in who I am. And then I can just show up and be, right? I know actively what I'm doing now because I've been fortified. I've had this initiation. I've had this revelation. I've had my awakening, right? And it's just more and more instances to deepen into it. Now, not only can I live it freely, fully express it, I can help other people do it too, right? Because I know where it comes from, is how it works. And that's my wish for you, right? That's my wish for all of us that we remember who we truly are and can live from that space because it is so beautiful. It's so empowering. It's going to transform your life and bring you true peace and true freedom. And I hope this video was helpful to you. I know that was a lot. I don't even know how long this was, but I had so much fun recording this. Um, yeah, again, reflect on these questions, journal on them. I would love to hear like how you feel about any of these or any revelations or insights that you had now or in the future. But I wish you so much love on your journey and just I wish you peace. I wish you joy. I wish you resilience and perseverance through any challenging times. And know that this is all for you. Know that you're in the right place, know that you're on the right path. And again, if you're watching this, continue to consciously choose the right decisions you know to be true for you from your heart, and you will never be led astray. So, thank you so much, you guys. I'll see you again next week for another episode, but have a wonderful weekend. Talk to you later.